May. That was my little joke there. Hey, everybody, my name's Dave. This here is Steve Edwards. He's the one in the cowboy hat, and I'm the one with the pseudo wannabe beard. Hopefully, you're having a fantastic day so far. I am. The day was just getting, quite out of hand for me. It was flying by. I was having so much fun doing what I was doing, and I told Steve, I was like, "Hey, Steve, sorry, I'm a couple minutes late." And he goes, "It's okay. At least you weren't napping through like I was." I said, "Hey, your words, your words." But we're here every single week, and we talk mules and donkeys. So if this is the first time you're ever seen us, hanging out with us, we're really grateful that you're here. And it's going to be a good time. Steve, how's the day been going out there on the ranch?
It's been fun. My granddaughter Nika has been visiting from Michigan, and we took a little hike out on the trails out behind in the mountains behind here. Got in last night from the Grand Canyon. We spent a couple of days up there and showed her around. They seen different things. It was crazy up there. People everywhere. I ain't seen it like that in a long time.
Did you all do the skywalk where they have that plexiglass or whatever out there and you can walk over the Grand Canyon?
No, nope, nope, no, nope, nope. God didn't
No
give me
thanks, no
wings. That
time.
wouldn't look like. We're gonna pass on that one.
Yeah.
I've been on the mules going down it, and that's good.
There is a reason why they choose to use the mule and they choose to use the donkey to go down the Grand Canyon, isn't it?
Yep, they choose the mule. The donkey can't quite do it.
They choose the mule, donkey
They're
can't
wild
quite do it.
down there. Yep.
Everyone's always saying, "Oh, I'll gets out of control. We'll do a turnout or whatever the wording is there." It's like, hey, you can't do that when you're on the side of a mountain when you're going down the Grand Canyon. You want to show me a mule
No.
that impresses, a mule that can turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters. What are the other ones in a 10-foot circle?
Side passing.
Side pass. Yeah,
Side.
there you go.
Yep.
10-foot
Yep.
circle. That's what we're here for. We're going to help you do that in a 10-foot circle. It all starts with the come
Here we
along
are.
rope.
Yep.
Folks, the way this works is we come here and just hang out for an hour, and there's three things that we ask of you. Number one is that you just introduce yourself, whether you're here for the 100th time or you're here for the first time. We just want to know that you're here hanging out with us. So put your name, where you're watching from, and what the weather's like in the comments section, because we want to know that you're here. The second thing that we ask is that you ask any and every question that you've gotten. Sometimes we'll have a question that's been asked before, and we're happy to answer it again. Actually, we look forward to answering questions a second or third time, fourth time, fifth time, because it's all about the repetition. So just like that animal needs the repetition, we need the repetition too. And we approach it from a different angle. We approach it from a different perspective. So ask any and every question that you got. And then the third thing that we ask is that you share the broadcast. If you're on YouTube, go ahead, click like on the video, and then subscribe to the channel. And if you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and tag just in a comment section, just type a friend or family member's name or click share on the post. And that's pretty much all that we ask. It lets folks know that, hey, when we get together for Independence Day, they want to thank you because you invited them to this show. You invited them to this broadcast, and there's not going to be any hard feelings when they find out you've been getting mule and donkey help all along, and they've been sitting out to pasture, getting fat on Facebook group advice. There's all sorts of people out there giving advice. We're going to tell you what we've learned over the last 40 years, and then you go out there and see what works for you. Steve, what do you say we say hello to a couple folks who are hanging out with us today?
Awesome. David Pengali just said, "Are we on?"
We are on, David Pengali. Hopefully you'll see us here. Facebook, YouTube, every single week. It'd be good to see you. Ross is watching, 71 degrees in Emmett, Idaho. We've got Bonnie watching from Indiana, 75 degrees. We've got Herman watching from Arizona. Howdy, Herman. Thank you for holding down the AZ fort. Jackie is watching from Placitas, New Mexico. It's sunny and 84 degrees here. Candace says, "Hi, Steve. Will you be in Bishop this weekend?" Steve, I think you've got some family stuff going on right now. I don't know that you're going to be in Bishop this year.
No, won't be in Bishop this year, folks. It's important that if I'm going to be someplace, it has to be an invitation, and that invitation comes from you all. So if I've No, it won't be a bishop. Got some family going and going to be enjoying time with them.
Very good. So Steve's right. In any type of event out there, equine, business, networking, whatever it is, the folks who are putting on those events, they get solicitation, hundreds, if not thousands of solicitations from folks who want to participate and present. They don't really care. What they care about is what y'all ask for. So if enough people contact Bishop, if enough people contact all these different expos that are going to be starting up around the country and say, hey, why isn't Steve Edwards coming? They'll call us because they know that you, the ones who are attending, want Steve Edwards there. So that's what you can really do if you want to see Steve show up in your neck of the woods. Eileen is watching from Nebraska, stormy and 72 degrees. Hello, Eileen. We've got, I think it's, let's see, around the seams. Hi, Steve and Dave. A little rain showers here in Berg Hill, Ohio. Love your show. Ron in Virginia. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Virginia. Appreciate that. Candace is watching from California. Let's see. Julie, Kentucky, 75 and cloudy. Get straight to the point there, Julie. I like that. We've got David watching from Sulphur Springs, Texas, 85 and sunny. Carolyn from Minnesota, getting a nightly freeze for a couple days. Stay warm. We've got Cowgirl Carol from Parker, Colorado, cloudy and gorgeous. Love hearing that. Love hearing that. Cowboy Ken from Connecticut, 80 degrees. Naomi is here, 51 and 80, 51, 80 Fahrenheit, 51 Celsius, 80 Fahrenheit here in the Netherlands. Let's see, fun is cold, wet, dark. Summer is a long way off before we get warmer. International, there we go. We've got our first question of the day. This one comes from Bonnie. Bonnie asks, are there any solutions to keep Molly mule urine water from falling all over the breeching and down the legs? Any solutions there, Steve?
No, there's not. The mollies are mollies. It just flat happens, folks. That's why I use all beta equipment, because the leather from the salt from the urine and the leather from the salt from the body, it deteriorates it. You could lower it a little bit, but still, a molly mule is a molly mule. There's not any way to do it. So when you get back from a ride, just hose her down good and hose the beta down real good. If it's leather, then you better clean it really good and oil it every single time. That's why I got rid of leather,
Awesome. Great question. Thank you so much. Jerry is watching. Jerry's watching from, I lost it. There we go. Indiana. Weather's nice. Plan on camping this weekend. Glad to be with you again. Jerry, we appreciate it. Carolyn has a question. She says, my new mule loaded good for the last owner, and I'm not seeing the rest of the question. Carol, get the rest of that question in there, and I'll ask it. I'd like to hear the answer to this one. Jackie says, just stocked up on Lakin Lite. What's the best way to transition over to these pellets from grass hay? And can I still give some grass hay to give her something to chew on?
You can't give her enough to chew on. Now, they'll chew, and they'll chew, and they'll chew. I know folks have had wood corrals, and they literally chewed them down to toothpicks. I know folks that had trees in their corrals and literally chewed them down to the base. There's no such thing. Folks, these animals don't need to keep on eating all the time. They don't need to. Now, here's one of the reasons that they do want to chew on things, and that is this. Their teeth are continually erupting. In other words, they're coming down from the top. They're already really long, and as they get older, their mouth comes out and their teeth begin to grow down. The best thing you can do is, number one, make sure you get your teeth floated every single year. Now, here's the other thing I like to do. Out here, we've got mesquite and we have palo verde. I like to take a limb of a palo verde and throw it in that stall and let them chew on it. They'll love it. We do that over to Phoenix Zoo. Any extra trimming or anything like that, I don't know about the tree limbs in your area. Check with your vet before you throw any limbs in there in case it could be toxic to your mule or your donkey. Now, transition-wise, you never want to just switch feed out because it's really easy to colic. Now, I've got a friend of mine that just had a horse colic, and they got, get this, they got 4 quarts of sand out of him, 4 quarts. So some of these animals will suck it up, suck it up, suck it up, and then you're in trouble. So just transition slowly, put yourself in maybe like a coffee cup of pellets to start with, and eventually wean them off and onto the all pellet. Now, if it makes you feel better to give them a little bit of hay, you can do that, okay? And there's not a problem with that, but I'm saying a little bit of hay. I mean, not in one feeding, you might give them maybe just a good little handful. It's not important. If it makes you feel better, do it, but they do not need it.
Great question. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Matter of fact, folks, if you have questions about what Steve's feed program looks like, and a lot of folks do, I'm putting a link in the comment section right now for our feed talk video. And it's a free video of Steve and James Weatherford, who was with Lakin Milling at the time, talking all about creating a feed and nutrition program for your mule or donkey. It's a great free video, and it just walks through common sense stuff that once you hear it, you're like, oh my goodness, why didn't I think of that? And a lot of times, if you've got some behavior issues, especially if they're just wanting to go, there might be a lot of difference that changing in your feed can make, especially with all those carbohydrates. It's like rocket fuel for these animals. So if you haven't paid attention to your feed program and you're just letting them out to pasture, you want to get your hands on that video, or eyes on that video, as it were, and make a few changes. You're going to see a real difference in your animal if you do that. Cindy says it's Tennessee, hot, 90 degrees, and in the hayfield all day to feed this mule habit. First there was 1, now there are 3. That is what we call mule math right there. Jim is watching. Tanya and I are ready for another show. Weather is in the 90s here in Old Town, Florida. Looking forward to tomorrow's show. That's right, Jim. I put a link in the comment section already. Tomorrow, we are having a special mule story program. It's absolutely free. This one you don't have to register for. Tomorrow you do. A lot of times, always we come just talk about whatever y'all want to talk about when it comes to this program here on Wednesday. But there are some times where Steve really wants to focus in on a specific topic and give an entire hour to that. That's what we're doing tomorrow. Steve's adopted granddaughter, Nat, participated in a mule makeover out in, was it the Ozarks or Missouri? Or
it was Springfield, Mass. Springfield, Missouri last year.
Springfield, Missouri. And it was a competition, the Mule Makeover, and we're going to have Nat on talk about her experience. And this girl just has a natural ability to communicate with the animal just from when she was just a little girl, 8 years old, and really did something special when it came to participating in this competition. And we're going to talk all about that. So I'll put a link again here in a second, but it's free to attend, but you must register. And even if you can't make it live, sign up, because we'll send out a replay and you'll get that replay. You have to be registered in order to get the replay and watch it later, watch the recording later. Gail is watching from New Jersey, 88 degrees and humid. Joan is watching from Edwards, New Mexico, 88 Fahrenheit, overcast, no howling wind. Woohoo, she says. Ben is watching from hot and dry North Carolina. Linda, the mule servant, and Theo, the sweet one-eyed but soggy but one-eyed mule in thunderstormy rural central Ohio. It would not be Wednesday without Theo here, as well as Linda, her humble servant. Karen is watching from central Virginia, 88 degrees. Got a question. What should I do if my mule nudges me with her nose, even a little bit? Appreciate all your helpful expertise. That's a good one, Steve, because we do not want the mule in my space. And if they're nudging you with their nose, that means they're up in your space.
Yeah, it's also saying move over there, get over there, pushing you, and that's not good, because that's them trying to be the top of the pecking order, and you do not want that. So what would I do? Don't smack them on the head and face or smack them somewhere. You don't have the halter, then and if they're in your space, use the edge of your boot and hit them in the shin. Don't look at them or anything. Don't make any moves, just like this, and go whack, just right in the shin. And that will get them out of your space. But here's the thing, folks, always consider this. It's already too late. If they're already nudging you, why are you letting them get that far? When you see them coming in, kick a little dirt toward them or go, hey, and as soon as they stop, you go into their space. They are not to come into your space. Draw yourself an imaginary 2-foot circle all the way around. They do not come into that space because it's like this one here. First, she's a nudging. Then she'll be pushing. Then she'll be biting. And it gets on and worse, So folks do that. Now, you mentioned Gail from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Can you imagine mules in New Jersey? Wow. But Gail, hey, she's smart. Listen to this. Gail had this mule shipped in from another state. And at one time or another, it was quite what she's going to do. She says, I'm going to do my groundwork first. She ordered a ground communication kit. I'm going to ship that out to her tomorrow. She says, I'm going to make sure that I do this right. And I said, wow, Gail, good for you. Now, there's a lot of folks doing this. It's really important, folks. You get a brand new mule, don't turn it out in the pasture and just let it go. No. You keep it in a small pen, 20 by 20, and you touch it, brush it, pick up the feet, all that stuff, lead it around. It's not important to ride. Hear this? Build a trusting atmosphere with the two of you. You're on that mule's back, you're a mountain lion, okay? So if you're good and you can climb in the middle of that mule, go ahead. But here's the problem. That mule's been traveling all this time. He's wanting to kick up his heels. And she said this mule, as soon as it come out of the trailer, it was all her husband could do to hold on to that mule, So I ain't gonna climb on that mule. No. Spend your time, do your groundwork, and feel good. The time you do climb in the saddle, you're gonna feel good about what you're doing. So Gail, good for you. Congratulations.
Good job, Gail. When you said, imagine that, a mule in New Jersey, it made me think of those old Pace Picante sauce commercials. This stuff's made in New York City. You weren't in any of those commercials, were you? Because it was Fireside with Cowboys.
Oh, yeah. No, I wasn't part of that one. New York City, yeah. Isn't that something?
New York City? Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
Sherman's hanging out with us. Norman, Oklahoma, 84 degrees and super wet. Send some of that rain here, Sherman. We'll take it. Laura is watching from Tennessee. Rain and cooler weather is coming, which will be a nice break from the 90-degree days. And I don't doubt that there's some humidity there with you too, Laura. Enjoy the rain. Nancy's watching. Let's see here. Nancy and Docky from Mountain City, Tennessee, sunny and 82. I think last week there was some confusion, but I can get a rope on Donkey and blanket and a surcingle, put a rope around his rump and move him. Is getting a rope around his face, but yeah, I did get the come along. He was tied to the post, so it wasn't the best, but we'll keep it up. Question: why does my donkey act like a wild child? He seemed to be more calm before he was gelded, and even worse now after the farrier came, as the farrier got kicked 5 times. My goodness, I would not want to see that. Donkey loves to kick, buck, and snort. Steve, this is getting gelded is supposed to remove these problems, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but some of them kind of take offense to it, I don't know you, sailor, so yeah, and this here donkey's taking offense to, and I've seen it once in a while, but look, put that come along hitch on there and jerk a knot in its tail, don't let it show you that behavior. It's doing that because it's thinking, all I got to do is do this and you'll get away from it. No, you get in there and you get that come along hitch on there, and when it acts stupid like that, whack them. When it's working around that shoer, getting kicked 5 times, no. I'd have put that come along hitch on there, and I would have tried my best to break its nose, because they don't need to be acting like that. Now, I've got a video that I'm sure Dave can find there, you all can see it, of a mule that wanted to fuss with me, and it didn't want its back leg picked up. And watch what happens in a matter of just a few minutes when this mule wants to fuss with me and the come along hitch says, nope, equalizer.
Yeah, I just put a link to that video. Y'all need to watch it. It's a fantastic video. We don't cut away in any of the videos we record of Steve. We don't cut away to show him struggling and then come back to show him, succeeding. We show the whole thing. And this is one of those where a lot of times it doesn't take this long. This is one of those times it was a great teachable moment to slow down, get out the come along rope, get patient, and do it one by one by one. And you see the whole thing. And this is really illustrative of what Steve's is talking about, is using that come along to communicate. Yes, it's wanting to pick up the rear foot. Yes, that's different than what you're trying to do, but the timing and the instruction goes the same. So watch that video when you have some time. It's about 12 minutes long, and it's fantastic through and through. Bill is watching, sharing this over to the Mules of Ohio, which we appreciate. Rain this morning, an afternoon cloud, 72 degrees. Hey, we got Rip here watching, coming in from a little bit north Arizona. Been catching your replays and just getting around to this simply because I'm so far behind, but would like to happily thank everyone involved with the March 2021 clinic. Met some wonderful people, and my walnut-sized brain absorbed a little. Steve is a man filled with knowledge and wisdom and so willing to share it, which in turn is a confidence builder for whatever caliber a rider is at. I would highly recommend anyone interested in mules to review Dave's videos or give Steve a shout. I recorded the videos. It's Steve, so I'm back there pushing the record button. There we go. Right. You're making him blush, Rip.
Yeah, my hat don't fit now. I had to take it off and kind of rearrange things after that one, Rip.
Are you slipping Rip $20, Steve?
I know, but hey, coming from that cowboy, that guy right there, I mean, he's a cowboy. This ain't no just I got a hat and I found it. Rip is a working rancher on the sides of mountains. Yes. So I appreciate that, Rip. Thank you very much. And besides that guy can build hot rods.
Yeah.
Did you see that truck?
Yeah.
Oh, man, the truck that he built, he come in an old clunker-looking truck, but you could hear that motor roar, and he had a Cummins diesel in that old truck. I think it was about a 46. What year was that, Rip?
It was
had all digital readout? Man.
Yeah, it was very, very cool. It was like a transformer.
Yeah.
Not bad at all. We enjoyed it. So y'all need to come out to the next event that we do. We'll announce some dates for the fall, most likely. And if Rip comes out, you can see his pretty nifty transforming truck. Carolyn is watching. Oh, okay. Here we go. All right. Let me go back up to Carolyn's first question. My new mule loaded good for the last owner. She jumps in fast and then gets out in 2 seconds, won't stay in. I've tried other animals. I've tried treats. And that's what we've got here, Steve. What issues do we got here?
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so let's ask one little question here. What are we doing to lead the animal up? Are we using a halter and lead rope? Are we using the come-along hitch? That's it, okay? Now, is there the other trailer? Now, is she trying to load this mule in a 2-horse trailer or a 4-horse trailer or a 6-horse trailer? And that would be good to know too. All right, now let's go back. When a mule goes in and turns around 2 seconds later, comes out, that is my timing. It's too late. Remember, folks, I tell you, fix it before it becomes a problem. If the mule's already in your space and touching you, it's too late. Okay, so be aware of it. Try to get your timing. Dave, this is why I talk about doing groundwork. Okay, and when you're up in the saddle and that mule takes off toward a cliff, that's not a good feeling, folks. And so what do you got to do? You got to know how to do it. And obviously her timing here is not correct. Also, I bet she just used a regular halter.
Yeah, timing's essential. I just put a link up on Facebook or up on Facebook and YouTube in the comment section. Steve just talking a little bit about timing. Go back after this live stream is over. Check out some of the links. This one is halter training, how to work on your timing with your mule, and it's very little things. All these things are subtle. Matter of fact, we were up last October. We were up in Chino Valley with James, Montana, and James went out. So Steve and I were out there. I was recording. Steve was observing. James went out and he did everything right as far as I was concerned. Now I was watching and I thought, why are we even here? He just did everything right. He did everything better than anyone I've ever seen aside from Steve. And so after about 10 minutes of James getting everything out, getting saddled up, yada, 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 Steve goes, okay, that was pretty good. I was like, Steve, come on, man. If anybody gets a bone, James Montana gets a bone. He says, you're doing everything the right way, but what we want to work on now is refining the communication. And the next 4 hours was proceeding to say all of these little teeny tiny things that you weren't doing, they all work together. And James and I both learned some really good refined communication. So the timing is huge. Just these little teeny tiny things. Watch that video and you'll get a feel for what Steve's talking about with timing and why that matters, why that's important. That's real good. Let's see here. Continuing on, we've got Dave watching and says, David Hughes watching from Caden, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, 78 and very dry. We've got other David saying, Steve, at what age do you start floating the teeth? Steve, what is it to float the teeth? And then at what age should you begin?
Well, usually they kind of got their full set of teeth in that 5 to 6 year old range. And floating simply means that when you look at my hand, you see how this is a high finger and this is a low finger, but this is lower. Well, that's how it looks in the mouth. It's kind of jagged, sharp points, because what happens is they grind their feed. Don't chew their feed. The incisors, the front teeth, go up and get a bite, and they pull it back to the molars and this sort of thing back in the back. And then they start grinding the feed. And what you want to do is take these sharp points off so that they all look like that. All pretty much kind of even all the way across. Now, that's really important. And it's really important for this reason, is the number one, they can use their feed correctly when it goes into the digestive system, into the the small and large intestines, then it goes in there correctly. It cannot be much more than like this wire right here. One piece of that wire, about 1 inch. It needs to be about that size for it to go through the intestinal system. And so the smaller they can chew it up, the better. That's the thing about doing the floating of the teeth. Now, get this in your mind. There's a difference between floating and balancing the mouth right so that it's balanced compared to every year maintenance. Now, you hear this? Every year maintaining floating off those points. Don't let a veterinarian tell you that, oh, it's fine, it'll be just fine. You do it yourself. Listen to this. Take your upper jaw and lower jaw and move it back and forth. And listen for the grinding. If you feel places in there where as you're doing it, you feel a catch, that is a tooth hanging up. And also the TMJs up here. When you push on that button right in behind here on the eye, you push on that button, watch the socket above the eye, how it will be flat and then puff up, flat and puff up. The flatter it is, the less the TMJs are hanging up. And all this teeth right here, folks, it's your mule's health. That's the number one thing. And then the number two thing, if the mule is healthy in the mouth, when you're using a bit, then you're going to get 110% out of it.
Very good. Yeah, teeth, super, super important. Super important. Great question. Dragonfly is watching. I always give a little hay first since I saw a hungry horse choke on a Lakin pellet. Steve, you ever seen any animal choke on a pellet?
No, I haven't. And giving a little hay first is some people tried that, and I've even had some people wet it and this sort of thing. Um, you have these animals that want to hurry up and eat because they're having to fight off other animals, and I'll even put stones, river stones, in the rock with the feed so they got to move it around. So choking, no, I've had people say something about it, but understand a mule and a donkey and a horse cannot throw up. Can one get wedged in there? Sure. But again, if the teeth were floated correctly, that when they chewed it up, it would be properly ground. Obviously, sounds like to me, we had a floating problem. I've fed pellets, folks, for 25 years to hundreds of mules, and never have I seen one choking or get it wedged up.
Justin's got a question. He says, "Hey, Steve, just got a mule 3 weeks ago. Very glad I found you prior to then. Any tips on how to get the kick out of her? She's almost 3, needs teeth floated, seems kind of protective over her hay."
Yeah, well, and she is. Folks, when you feed these animals, don't go in there and put the hay down. Don't do that. Feed them outside. You've got your rails going across. Have a feeder right here so that you can put the feed in there and don't go inside. Yes, some animals are very, very protective about their feed, and they will spin and kick and hurt you. I can tell you some horror stories that ain't nice. Have your feed set up so that you feed from outside and put your feed down in.
Very good.
Now,
go ahead. Keep going.
Okay, on the question. On the kicking, is it only kicking during the feed time, or does it try to kick at you other times?
That's a good question. Now, as we're talking about feed here, I know that this was the question about kicking, but as we're talking about feed here, I'm putting a link in the comment section again to Steve's Feed Talk video because it goes into everything that he's talking about here as it relates to feed, as it relates to behavior in feed. And you'll want to make sure to get that, watch that, and then come back with questions. Feed program and nutrition program is very, very important. And it's not something that you just want to let them out to pasture and go. Matter of fact, you don't ever want to let them out to pasture like that. In the video, it'll tell you exactly why. And once you hear it, you'll be like, okay, that makes sense. I'll have to make some adjustments. And those adjustments will turn into better results with your training. Nancy says, how do I get just the ground foundation video? I've got the come along rope and halter. Nancy, I'll send you a link here in a second. RV is watching, says, great advice today, Steve. I agree. Great advice today, Steve. Some days you're just on, and today's one of those days. Kelly's watching, says, would love to have a good mule. I love them. Wouldn't we all love to have a good mule? Steve, what makes a good mule?
Disposition, number one. Disposition, And then number two, make sure that when you are moving, when you're working with these animals, like Gail in New Jersey, and some of you others are doing groundwork, every move a picture so that they can see. They're reading every time you move, every time you look down, every time you look up. They're reading, and they get to learn you and get to know you. And folks, that's what's important, because on the ground, you're on their level. You're reading according to what they understand. So that's number one, good disposition. Number two, awesome conformation. Now, it's difficult because they got the donkey bone structure, so you got a lot of things wrong with these animals that should have been right and it should have been fixed back when they're babies. So we got a lot of mules today that are hocked, their feet are splayed out or splayed in, they wear a shoe incorrectly, yada, yada. So disposition, conformation, and then here comes training. So there you are. It ain't the price, folks. Just because somebody wants $10,000 for a mule, if they want $10,000 for a mule, I don't care if it went to Colorado in a 10-foot circle, right?
That's right.
I want to see them trained. If they're trained, I'll see it in a 10-foot circle.
Anybody that tells you they got themselves a good mule, 10-foot circle is what you want to do. Anyone can pony a mule behind a horse, and that mule's just going to ride and follow. Anyone can just lead them around and do sorts of dog and pony show and all sorts of things like that. Steve won't recommend a mule to you, and the reason why is the same reason why you want to get out there and meet the mule itself, is because he doesn't know that mule. He hasn't been around that mule. He hasn't seen that mule work. He hasn't seen that mule train. He hasn't seen that mule in action. And so it's impossible to just look at a picture and say, yeah, you got a good one. I mean, you can look for certain things, and he's got a video, so you want to buy a mule, which walks you through those. But it really is all about getting out there, being educated when you go out there, and then knowing what to look for. And it is all of those techniques inside of a 10-foot circle. RV is giving us some amens. RV's liking what he's hearing today. Thank you, RV. Appreciate that. Carolyn is coming back, says the new mule loads quick, rockets out even faster, will not stay in, and it's both of the trailers that you mentioned, and then she specifically says a 3-horse slant, and this is the one that was in and just quickly right back out.
Yeah, well, again, timing. So let's go up to the. Well, we got the video. That'll be good help.
The trailer loading video.
Yeah, let me just give you a couple steps. So step number 1, I walk up to the opening, and I bump, stand here. Step number 2, I ask the mule to come forward a little at a time. I roll my wrist. So the mule comes to the head first, then 1 foot, then 2 foot, then I get quiet. Then I ask the mule again, bump, bump. It comes up a little bit more with the 2 front feet, and I stop him right there, and I wait. And then I come up with a couple more feet, and the back feet are starting to come up. I wait right there a second, bump them, stop them, pet on them. Here's the key thing. It ain't the petting, it ain't the treats. It is, I am not using the come-along hitch. As long as they're doing correct, I'm not going to bump it. And then the next step, go up into the trailer, stop them right there. Now, and then on from there. Now, how would I do this? You heard the steps in the trailer. Do the same thing on a 4x8 sheet of plywood. Get the animal to understand that every time you release the come-along hitch, in other words, you're not bumping it, every time you release it, then that's a good boy. That'll do. Folks, forget about the treats. Forget about tying ropes around their rumps and this sort of thing. When you have a mule that won't come in and stay in place, number 1, it's my timing, no, it's not number 1. Number 1, the mule does not have good ground foundation manners. Number 1, okay? Does not respect halter. Does not do it, okay? Now, number 2, then it comes down to me. It is my timing. That's what I say. Groundwork, groundwork, work, groundwork. Now, I've seen people that have been loading their mule for 5 years, and you think after a ride they want to jump in a trailer and go home. Nope. I have seen them suckers go to fighting, but the come-along hitch does the changing, and that'll help you out. So do your groundwork home first, and then do your loading in a trailer. And the trailer loading video, that really will open your eyes.
Well, that trailer loading video starts with groundwork.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Yeah, it's connected. Let's see. Linda says, Steve's foundation work is fun, and it gives confidence to people like me who might have turned into fearful riders. If you go step by step, it is such a thrill to have the mule sure enough do as you ask. You'll lose your fear, and the mule will trust you when you ask him to try something new. Steve, that hat is just,
wow.
That hat's about to explode there.
I can't. It won't fit. I won't fit no more. I'll do my best to try to get it on there.
Doggone it! We're gonna have to get you a new set of hats. It's a lifetime to replenish.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda.
That's good news.
That's
Yep.
great.
Yep.
Myra, who is another one of the faithful, is watching from Southern California. Nice but breezy here today. Question: how important is riding with spurs? My mule is very sensitive to cues to the point of overreacting and becoming upset with a heavier hand.
That's right. And good for that mule. All right. Now, look, folks, I do not ride anything without spurs. Okay. Asking, telling, demanding. Get that in your mind. Asking, telling, demanding. You ask with your calf. You tell with the side of your stirrup. You demand with your spur. Now, understand this, folks, that you've got to have the length of shank. That's the part that comes off of the spur with the rowel. You've got to have the length of shank that's going to work best for you. Now, some of you are longer legged, so your boots are below the belly. You're going to need a lady leg spur, and that comes up like this and kind of shaped like this with a rowel on it. Okay. Now, some of you that as soon as you move your leg, it's going to be a spur, then you're going to need a straight shank. And it's going to depend on the length of your shank. Folks, don't buy a pair of spurs because they're a pair of spurs. It's like any other tool. It needs to be used correctly. Myra's got a beautiful mule. I mean, you ought to see that new mule she got. It is gorgeous, okay? And the neck comes up out of the shoulders, so I know that mule has a lot of go for it. So Myra, anybody, any of you, use your calf asking, side of your stirrup telling, spur demanding, okay? Practice that, and you'll do fine. But so many of these animals have been harpooned out of the ignorance of people, and it can happen, but give that a try. Don't be afraid not to use spurs.
Very good. RV says, treat them good until they show you they don't respect you as the alpha. Then, just like Steve says, you have to be willing to get right with them and jerk a knot in them. And this goes to a point that in this new 21st century, you got a lot of really well-meaning people who are looking out for animals, and so much good has come of that. But one of the downsides is you also have folks who have not spent their lives around equine and don't understand the equine and treat the equine, mules and donkeys especially, as if they're dogs or cats. And that's probably one of the worst things you can do in terms of safety, in terms of respecting creation. That's probably one of the worst things that you can do in terms of showing the equine the care and affection that it wants in its language. And so a lot of times folks will see, like RV's talking about here, they don't respect you, starting to jerk down. Folks will see that and say, well, this is just abuse. Well, you want to talk about abuse. Abuse is treating thing A like it's thing B, treating a human like a dog, or treating a mule like a dog, or treating a human like a mule. It's not understanding the unique place that this creation has in the overall creation. And so when we talk about it, it's not for anything other than respecting the way the lead mare communicates to the rest of the herd, mimicking that ask, tell, demand communication method in the way that we communicate it. So RV's absolutely right, and you'll hear us talk about that, and we don't shy back from it, and we encourage anyone who sees anything that we're doing, because I know Steve. Steve loves these animals. These animals have brought him so much enjoyment. And I know you, Steve. I encourage anyone to come and get the full breadth of what it is we're talking about here, and then step back and say, okay, I understand the full picture. So I just like to say that because I know there's folks out there who will see it and they'll mischaracterize it, and we don't want that. We want the best for the mule and the donkey and the owner. And a lot of that has to do with safety and the way you communicate. Anthony is watching, says, hey, Steve, hope all is well. Question, how do I get my mule to stop chewing on her rope when she's we got a chewing theme here today. How do you get them to stop chewing on the rope, Steve?
Okay, it might be a young mule. A lot of times they're teething. They go to chewing on them. I tell you what I do, folks. Now, we say chewing when it's tied to a hitching post. Well, what I do is every one of my hitching posts have chains with, with a snap. And that's what I have so that it keeps them chewing. Because a lot of my mules that I've trained over the years have been really young, so they're teething and they need to be able to chew something. That's where that limb works good. Now, I have put Tabasco sauce on them ropes. That does good, but most likely, well, I guess what it is, you're probably tying up to take a break or to saddle or something like that, and they're chewing. So, how young is the mule? Okay, and then have you had their teeth floated and this sort of thing?
Very good. Great question. Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it. Hope you all are doing well. Anthony has a second question. He says, the mule does great if I have the Surcingle on for a day, then ride her that evening without any issues. But if she has a couple days off, she can be silly. Can I keep her in a Surcingle all day?
Yeah, you can if you want to keep track of her. I mean, is this Anthony up in Flagstaff?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is.
Oh, I thought so. Yeah, he's podiatrist. Yeah, great guy. Yeah, it's amazing what happens with these Surcingles and how they get such a good mindset. I wouldn't put the Surcingle on them all day long. It's a training tool, and what it amounts to is this mule needs to have something to do. So hey, there's nothing wrong before you ride them. Put the Surcingle on, put the mule rider's martingale on or an adjustable halter, and move them around to the right and the left a little bit. Let them get softened up and then go. Now I can also tell you this, Anthony, that just like anything else, natural means natural. Okay, so if the mule is being incorrect, then fix it. Okay, remember what a mare is going to do. She's going to ask you, pin her ears. She's going to tell you, pin her ears, switch your tail. And then if she's going to demand upon you, spin and kick. So look, if you have to take and go right, left with your hands and say, don't do that. Or if you have to bump until you get your reaction, get it. It's nothing compared to a kick from another animal. Nothing compared to it. So, go ahead and you don't like an attitude. Listen, folks, anytime they're doing something you don't like, bump with your come along hitch or with your lead rope or right, left with your bridle. Do that. That way they know that this is right and this is wrong. Don't say, oh, Fluffy, don't do that. Fluffy will do it again. They understand comfortable, uncomfortable. So they're making you uncomfortable. You make them uncomfortable. No different than a herd leader would do in a herd. No different.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. Nancy sent an email in, Steve. She says, I rode a great little Molly mule at the Grand Canyon a couple of years ago, and I've wanted one ever since. Not the first time we've heard that. I've had horses all my life. My last two geriatric horses passed a couple of months ago. I just turned 69. I'm in good health and I'm active. Is it too late in life to start with mules? If not, here's a couple more questions. We offered pasture to our neighbors who just got 5 alpacas. Do mules and alpacas get along? Do I need a different pasture mate? My husband loves to travel the 2 winter months. How would that affect my mule and my relationship? Thank you for responding. I'm learning so much from listening to your YouTube broadcast. Thank you for all your wisdom. And also, I appreciate how you're not reluctant to share Jesus Christ. You are a blessing, Nancy.
Wow. Yeah, that last part there, that's cool. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Nancy, let me get the tears out of my eyes for a second. Number one, folks, these animals don't need a pasture buddy. You are the pasture buddy. They don't need it. Alpacas, yeah, they'll eventually get along with them. They'll eventually get around them, just like cattle. But I can tell you that alpacas can also create some difficulties with them. So if it was me, I would put them in a corral someplace where I can keep track of them. Number two, looking at, okay, we're gone for the winter. That's okay. Ain't no big deal. The animal will come back. You'll be just like he was the day you put him back in the corral. All of my mules that we had here, we've done it several ways. One, we had friends with ranches up north, and they would use them. Two, we would leave them down here, especially when we got down to where we just had one mule. My wife's mule, Stacy, she stayed in a 10 by 20 pen all her life, okay, by herself, period. And so it's not a problem. We had that mule for 26 years, 10 by 20 stall, no pasture mates. Okay, so if the mule has a good foundation, the way you leave them that night is the way they'll be the next morning.
Awesome. Is 69 too late to get started?
Oh, no, no. Uncle Bud, when he died at 97, he was still riding every day. And it was his favorite thing was get me on my mule, my back is sore. Oh, that feels better once he got in the saddle. But no, you keep riding. I'm 71, and when I go down the Andrada, I go down and ride my little Rocky mule. He's 13-2, and he's the dandy, you know. Which reminds me, we were talking about selling mules and do I tell people where to go? Normally I don't. We talked about that. Unless I know the mules. Guess what? Randy has sold the majority of the mules down on the ranch. We're talking 18, 20-year-old mules, and they're the greatest mules. Been there, done that. I've been there, seen them do it. I knew they were good mules. And the people that bought those mules, some of my clients that said, I'm looking for a mule. And I said, well, 20 years old. Oh, I don't want that old. Yeah, you do too. Because I know that 20-year-old was right from the very beginning, mainly because of Randy. I know that, you know, he's a good ham, but we knew those mules, and those mules have pretty much all been sold. And now we're getting some younger mules. My granddaughter is going to help us out with that. She's going to be starting them. So when we go get them from her, they're going to be right. You know?
That's good.
Yeah.
Man, I wish somebody would say that about me when I was 20 years old. No, you want this one right here. This 20-year-old, he knows. He knows.
Yeah.
That would have been quite the compliment. Megan sent in a message, just a really cool message she gave us. Wanted to give you all an update on my donkey Samson. Been working with him the last couple of months using the come-along rope. The main reason I got it was to train him to stand still for hoof work. It was getting to the place where he was fighting so hard someone was bound to get hurt. I am so thankful I came in contact with Steve and his techniques because it works wonders. Samson is learning by leaps and bounds and surprised us all when he let my dad spent very little time handling him, let my dad walk right up to him, rub him down, pick up his hoof, and clean it out. He had no halter on or anything, just stood as quiet as you please. Thank you all so much. Also eager to hear an update on how things are going for Nancy and her donkey she was told to give up on, according to last week's live stream. So y'all take care, she says. So that's real great. And Nancy, if you're watching still, keep giving us an update on how things are going. We do want to keep up with that. But I thought that was real cool, and I told Megan I'd like to read that on the air so folks can hear it. So that was real great there. Hopping back over to Facebook and YouTube here. Lamar is watching, says, hi, Steve and Dave. Lamar here. Price, Utah, 70 degrees. Sunny. Steve, my white mule has a consistent little cough, like a smoker's cough. She will stretch out her neck, roll her jaws, and cough. Going to take her to a vet. Hope you might have an idea of what's happening, and do mules need West Nile's shots? From Lamar.
Yes, they need the 5-way, the Eastern Western encephalitis and the West Nile. Yes, they do. It's something that I kind of fought for a while until I seen the West Nile actually attack, and it was on a mule. But yeah, I pretty much always make sure they get the 5-way, and they'll do just fine.
Awesome, very good. Thank you, Lamar. Great question. Moving right along, we've got filmer of bobcats. I think it's Lisa. I'm trying to remember. Filmer of bobcats. Do mules respond to bitter apple spray all over the lead rope?
I have actually tried that over the years, and my answer is no. They don't do well at all. If you're tying them up with a lead rope and they go to chew them, I have to go back and say, okay, with the teeth loaded. But the other thing, like I said, I've used chain. If you got a chewer, I remember at the Grand Canyon years ago, one of the guys had a brand new set of reins made out of rawhide. They were beautiful. It cost him almost $350 that set of reins, and a mule chewed him. It wasn't the mule he was riding. It was the mule next to him. He had taken his bridle off and hung it on a horn, and the mule chewed them anyway. They'll chew no matter what. It's something they do, especially if their teeth ain't floated. But if you got a chewer, put you a chain on the end of your lead rope, and you'll do just fine.
Very good. Another question: what should I expect to pay for a good-natured, well-trained mule? Steve, if that isn't Pandora's box, I don't know what is. But what should you expect to pay?
Well, I can tell you that my last mule that went to Hawaii, it was $12,000. And I can tell you that I spent almost 3 years with that mule, which had really been abused pretty serious. Good mule, solid mule, but his back was raw, his teeth weren't right, just a fear all the time. It took me 3 years to get his mind back. Now, question, now here it comes to your mind. Would you work for 3 years for $12,000? And the mule was given to me. Yeah, it was given to me. But you got vet bills, and you have feeding and all this stuff, and your time. So you think about that. So, folks, it's not the matter of how much money. It's a matter of, does the mule, number one, this is why I tell you, do not buy a mule off the internet. Touch it, smell it, look at it, okay? Not just ride. I've got clients that have just went, and every day for 3 days they rode. They got them home and they couldn't hardly touch them. Okay, so let's go back. Take and spend time with that mule. When you go to look at a mule, we got a video called So You Want to Buy a Mule. Look at disposition first. Does this mule want to spend time with you? Okay, disposition, and then confirmation, and then training. And in training, if they can, in a 10-foot circle, get this in your mind, folks. I have people tell me all the time, well, I watched that mule on YouTube, went across water, traffic was going by, yada, 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 everything but an elephant attack him. And you're thinking, man, that's well-trained. No. Well-trained in a 10-foot circle, side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, back up lightly. Okay, all along with one hand, not two hands. If they're two-handed, they are not trained. They are in training process. Watch that, really important. How much are they gapping their mouth? How much are they elevating their head? It goes back to this again. Folks, if you can't smell them and you can't touch them, you're not buying them.
There you go. Just put a couple links in the comment section. Y'all check those out. One of them is a free article that Steve just published a couple months ago, how to buy a mule at auction or off Craigslist. Great information. And then Steve's video, So You Want to Buy a Mule, which goes through in detail with pictures exactly what Steve was just talking about there. So go check that out. Let's see. Nancy says, donkey does not like hay, but loves his straw. I throw it all over the rail, but have to pour his pellets out in a bucket at night. I'm sure he's away from the bucket when I go to pick it up. I can motion for him to come and motion for him to back up, and I don't see any follow-up. Did you pick up a question in there, Steve?
No, I got some questions. She was saying basically that she has to go inside to feed her mule in a bucket, or a donkey, I mean, and the donkey doesn't come over and get in her space and stuff. Well, that's good. Sounds like she's kind of got things figured out, and I don't think there's so much question, but she was able to do it. Reminds me of that video that Duran sent you, that I sent you through Duran, where the mule was following him around in the pen. And I said, man, people ought to be seeing this, how well he had that mule staying with him. Duran did a really good job there. I mean, when you watch it on video, man, that mule stayed right with him, no halter or anything on him. And every time he made a move or a stop or anything, that mule responded. He did an awesome job on the ground.
Very good. All right, let's keep cruising right along here. We're getting close. We're actually at 4 o'clock. Do you have a few extra minutes, Steve?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, very good. Let's see here. Talking about earlier with the horse that had the pellet, Naomi says that horse was choking on a pellet, suffered an esophageal blockage. It's real and can be very deadly. So y'all Look out for those esophageal blockages. Justin says, let's see. Oh, you know what? I think Nancy and Justin are talking back and forth. I think that's what it is. So I'm picking up on their conversation. Lisa, it looks like a lot of folks are talking on here. Cinda is watching. Hi from Groton, New York. It's been a while. Finally have my mule and spending as much time as I can with her. I have a lot to learn, and you are going to be my go-to for learning. Love hearing that, Cinda. Thank you so much. Linda says, can you explain why round pin reasoning works so great for horses and is all wrong for mules? My boarder is a horse gal, and Theo walks past her like she's invincible. Or invisible. Not invincible, invisible.
Well, John Lyons, very good friend of mine and a good horseman, he started doing the round pin reasoning years ago, but folks misunderstood it, and he's done several different videos about this. It basically amounts to is this: the donkey side of the mule doesn't see what's important about going around in a pin, round circle, because people are trying to treat him like the horse side. But the donkey side says, I don't see any reasoning in doing this. So if you're trying to do the round corral training like John does in the video, they'll put you on ignore. When do I use a round pin? When I'm doing my surcingle work. When do I use a round pin? When I have one that's hard to catch. Okay, that's what I do. And the hard to catch mules, I go to them. I don't have them come to me. I want them to feel the pressure of me coming toward the shoulder. I don't want them to come just because they want to or because I cue them up, because that doesn't completely work out there on the side of a mountain. Okay? You need to be able to walk over to them and them handle that pressure and do just fine.
Awesome. Continuing right along. RV is loving it. He goes, yes, yes, yes. So RV's on board with everything he's hearing today. Good having you here, RV. James is watching. Jim in Western Maryland, 71 degrees and stormy. Aaron is watching, says, I have a mule that shakes its head going downhill. Any thoughts? Thanks, Aaron from Utah. That mule's communicating, Steve.
Yeah, he is. Now, here's the deal, Aaron. You're going down a hill. Before you started going down the hill, did you loosen up the cinches? Did you lift the back of the saddle up and let air through it and give it a break? Did you put the saddle back down, adjust the cinches, and then here's the most important part, adjust the britching. Now remember, folks, when you adjust a britching, you adjust it on flat ground. It's adjusted 1.5 inches. Your saddle can move 1.5 inches forward, back, left, and right. Now, you're going down a hill now. That mule is no longer on flat ground. He's now getting his hind end up underneath him, and now you've got a big gap. Now the saddle goes forward because now there's 1 inch more of play, and the saddle hits the scapula. And anytime they shake their head going downhill, folks, it's because the saddle is banging the scapula, especially if you're using horse saddles because they're more pointed. The front of mine go up. So if you're riding my saddle and you're hitting that scapula, that means that saddle went ahead almost 3 inches. Almost 3 inches. That means the breeching was not adjusted correctly for that terrain. That's the purpose of a breeching, folks, is to adjust for your terrain. So hopefully that's a question. Now, hey, send me a picture of your mule saddled up, breeching and all there. Let me help you out.
There we go. Picture can tell us a lot, and we can get you some good information. RV says, I love my gelded mule and my Jenny donkey and would never mistreat one if or until they show me that they want to hurt me or others. Then you have to be willing to discipline them, not beat them. That's a great distinction, RV. Really appreciate that. Linda says, Nancy, I'm 69 years old, or 69 is not too late. You'll have so much fun. I'm about to turn 69. A bunch of joint replacements. Steve will tell you how. There you go. Let's see. Eileen says, good afternoon. Eileen from Columbia, Kentucky. 86 right now. We had nice rain come through earlier. Enjoy it. Let's see here. Justin. Justin, it looks like, can you do me a favor, Justin? It looks like a bunch of comments came in over several threads. If you've got a question, can you just put it all together in one for me real quick? Because I'm having trouble making it out and I want to make sure to get you help. So I'm just communicating what I need in order to make sure you get what you need. And I'll give it some time here and be looking for that. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry to ask you to do that extra work. I really want to get you a good answer. Let's see here. Pill is watching. AZ Northwest Corner. Got 5 mules, had mules almost 50 years, don't know a thing about mules. Okay, all right, Pilgrim. Good to have you here. You're in the right place. Lisa says I got her name right. Yes, there we go. Bill Rose sounds like my free mule. Let's see. You answered question about feeding hay to a mule and Kiki. Okay, I'm just catching up here. Nancy, my mule paws when I lock them in a corral. Any suggestions? My mule paws when I lock them in a corral. Any suggestions?
Well, when they paw, they usually will paw wanting something. I want out of this corral. I want my feed, something like this. Now, Randy has just made up, Randy Figgins, just made up some hobbles. And we've been talking about a hobble to set up for mules that paw. And we're going to have we got the hobbles now, and we're going to start shooting little videos, and we're going to have other pictures that Randy's going to send to Mr. Fantastic Media Man here, Dave. And there he is, the guru of gurus, the sultan of sultans, the media man. There he is. Anyway, that is, and then you're going to see, and you can purchase also how this thing is made up. And it's a beautiful hobble. Man, it's great. Oh, by the way, Anthony had asked about the hobbles. They're on my website now, and it's going to be a lot more information out there for you folks. But here's what the deal goes. They're pawing. If they're standing at a hitch and rail and they're pawing, we put a chain on this hobble, and when they paw, it bangs on their cannonball. Now, when they quit pawing, take it off right away. And you'll see there's no buckles, nothing. It's fast, zip zap, and you take it off. Now, when you do that, you can immediately tell that mule that when you paw right here at this spot, you're going to be made uncomfortable. Your choice. Now, folks, just because they quit pawing at this spot, you move them 5 feet over, and they'll start pawing again. But they need to learn that right here is going to be uncomfortable. So I'm not sure where the mule is pawing at, pawing to get food or pawing at the gate, but that'd be a good thing to know.
Very good. Let's round it up here. We've got Bill comments, I will only feed a handful of wet feed out of a pan scattered around and wait till they swallow before I give another handful. Is that to prevent overeating, Steve?
Well, I think he's doing it too to keep maybe from choking. A lot of people hear about the choking, and he's saying wet feed, and it does happen. Like I said, I've fed hundreds of mules over the past 25 years and never had a problem. But then she also mentioned it was a horse, and there's a whole lot of difference watching a mule eat or a donkey eat compared to a horse. But yeah, it's not a big deal, folks.
We got a fan here. Jim is watching. Jim says, I love the flag. The flag is awesome. What are the pictures on the left? So you got some pictures to your right there, Steve.
Yes.
What are those pictures there?
Well, the picture that you see right here of it's in the frame is me in Egypt riding and training mules on the Sinai Desert. That's what that is. And then these pictures here.
Yeah.
David Pingali just sent a little note. These pictures are here of me roping on my little mule. That is, his name's Rocky. And this was another mule, folks. I have had a lot of mules given to me that they've lost all trust in humans. And it takes quite a while, and your life is in danger when you're with these mules. But little Rocky here, he's only 13 too. but I dragged some mules to fire with him and the uh, and using my trail light saddle. And then this desk right here that you see here, that desk is all kinds of trophies and belt buckles and stuff like that, stuff that you get that you don't think about it till it's been in a box, and all of a sudden you take it out and you remember that this was a trophy buckle that you got. So anyway, that's a table full of that stuff. So that's just kind of a corner right there. But training mules on the Sinai Desert in Egypt, that was incredible. Now, I said, wow, mules in New Jersey, when you see mules in Cairo, cars back to back, but you see mules and carts going down the road, even on freeways. That's crazy, but yeah, that's what that was. And of course, my flag, my wife she always decorates quite a bit, and we're coming up to Memorial Day weekend, and I can get quite emotional here, but there's a lot of men and women in the armed services that have given and still give. And on top of that, the families that give when these men and women are serving. And these are the people that armed forces. And folks, there I go get emotional. I've got a lot of friends that died in Nam, and I've got a lot of old friends that are now passed away that were been in World War II and Korea and stuff. But here's the deal: they gave, but their families gave even more. They gave their life, but then their families now had to put away and not have their loved ones there. So they gave a lot. And folks, don't also remember your first responders, not just the firefighters, but your police officers, and also the men and women in the nursing and doctoring fields as well, and consider that. So God bless America, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, if it's okay, we got a couple more that we'll wrap up with, and then we'll call it a show. Let's see. James is watching, says, hello, hello. Good to have you here, James. Bobby is watching, St. James, Missouri, or St. James, Montana. Good to have you here, Bobby. Let's see. Naomi says, if I hobble my mule, everyone here, Netherlands, will freak out because they say it is sad to see a mule or a horse be hobbled. We don't do that here in the Netherlands. Let's see. What do I do about it? Nothing. That's what she says right there. I don't say nothing about it. I just do it. Steve, is there a stigma about hobbling at all?
Oh yeah. Again, folks, they just haven't been around these animals and understand. Wait till you have an animal stuck in a barbed wire fence and has killed himself because he don't know how to stand still and quiet. And I've seen it, and it's not pretty. There's nothing wrong with hobbling, folks. Everybody, every mule ever should be hobbled from the very beginning. Dr. Robert Miller, one of the most famous veterinarians out there, he's got a great video too of hobbling up one leg, and that this horse would not stand to get a shot. And you can see it. He hobbles up one leg and he gives the shots. Now, when I met Bob, wow, what's it been, 25 years ago now, Dr. Robert Miller, my wife, we were at Bishop at the World Championships, and I was competing there. She went to see this famous Dr. Miller, this before I knew him, and she'd come back ducking her head and licking her lips. and I said, what's going on? She says, well, I always thought you were being pretty tough on these animals by tying up a foot and making them stand on three legs. And Dr. Robert Miller, one of the most famous veterinarians out there, says every mule, every horse, every donkey needs to have a leg tied up. Every one of them needs to learn how to hobble, folks. Listen, they need to do that. And they all need to learn how to use a twitch. Listen, puts the natural, listen to this, the natural way to get them to settle down. It takes away the flight because of fright. Now, Dr. Miller's written books. He's got videos. He was the one that brought in this imprinting. He's a famous veterinarian, and he knows what he's talking about. And when he says take a foot away, folks, listen to him. You know, I'm a cowboy. I've done all my life. You know, and I've been tough. I got to tell you, I've done a lot of things that I wished I hadn't. But every one of your mules, every one of your donkeys need to learn how to be hobbled, and they need to learn how to be a twitch.
Awesome. Just shared a link to the Twitch and shared a link earlier to the hobbles. Just wrapping up here. RV says, my mule paws sometimes when he is in his pen and wants out. Or like today, I had him tied after the farrier trimmed him, and he pawed because he is 4 and impatient like a teenager. So he needs to be tied more to build patience. Older he gets, he will be calm. Let's see. Reggie's watching, says, I'm late. Hello from North Dakota. I'm a veteran myself, so thank you for the kind words. RV says, I'm an Air Force vet, Iraqi vet. So thank you, gentlemen, for your service. Appreciate that very much.
Yep.
Steve says, Steve, God bless you for your compassion towards families who have paid the ultimate price for our freedom. I grew up a military brat, moved a new duty station every other summer, and sometimes our pilots flew out and didn't come back. Thank you for remembering. Thank you, Linda. Appreciate that. Nancy says, thank you. And RV says, I hobble mine. So that's it for today, folks. Thank you for hanging out with us. And just a little heads up, we're going to take a break for the summer. This is going to be our last show until the fall. But rest assured, we will be back. We will have a lot more fun in store. And we will let you know when that'll happen. So over the next couple of weeks, I have my kids are out of school. I told Steve, I said, my kids are out of school. We've got some vacationing planned. We have a few things that are going to conflict. And so we'll take a break for the summer, and then we'll be back. I don't know. It's like season 7 or something like that. We'll be back. But in the meantime, there's probably close to 100 episodes you can go check out on YouTube. We'll keep you in touch. But don't miss tomorrow's event. Tomorrow, we are going to be talking about the Mule Makeover in Springfield, Missouri. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's free, but you got to register. Steve, anything you want to say here?
No, I appreciate you talking about my adopted granddaughter there. I call her my granddaughter, Nat. And so it's good. Now, I can also tell you, folks, that the man that puts on this Springfield, Mass Mule Makeover, he does it for the veterans. The money goes toward the veterans. I don't know a lot about that particular thing, but I know that as I heard him talk, as when I was there, this was for vets and families. So anytime, folks, we can help out these men and women that serve this United States, we need to stand with them.
Absolutely. Y'all, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for making the beginning of 2021 an amazing several months, and we're very excited to see you tomorrow, and we'll be very excited to meet back up with you this fall. Steve, take care, all right?
All right, buddy. Family first, folks.
Family first. We'll see you all tomorrow night. Make sure you get signed up. I put a link in the comment section. Go click it. You'll get your ticket, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.